Hey guys, so another video of me sat in front of the camera, and I just wanted to talk about LFM races, or I should probably say it by its proper name if I'm going to actually talk about it in depth. So low fuel motorsport racing. Now, it's getting more and more popular. Like, I keep seeing more and more people joining in on Twitter, Discord and stuff, people mentioning it more and more. So there's definitely this surge in popularity at the moment with people moving over to LFM. And I don't necessarily think that's for any other reason than just, it's getting a lot more awareness out there. ACC has always been a great game. But the thing for me that's always stopped me playing it is just before something like LFM came along was just the online play. It just isn't very good out the box. So it's similar to F1 games where you basically have to find a lobby, hope that the people that join the lobby want to take it seriously. If not, then you're kind of at the mercy of them just messing around. It just doesn't feel like you're actually probably participating in like proper structured races, because it's just a case of finding a lobby. That lobby may never exist again, and then you're hoping to find another lobby. And for me, it actually wasn't very good. Obviously, SimGrid was there, but for me, I love SimGrid races, but the one thing that always led down for me is just it wasn't very varied, and it always seemed to be Kyalami or Imola, and unless you did the B or C races, it was just always the same, and they weren't very busy. You might find the odd race that had a decent amount of people, say 30-40 people in, but more often than not, it always felt around 10-20 people at most. And if you're unlucky enough to be in a high split race, then you're basically at the back always. And if you're watching this saying you're always at the back anyway, yeah, I probably deserve that. So anyway, along comes LFM, and it's been around a bit longer than people think. But yeah, basically the thing that makes LFM so great is the fact that it basically turns ACC into iRacing in terms of having that structure. Having a series of races or different series of races. So you've got your GT3 races, your GT4, you've got your endurance races, you've got your sprint races, you've got rookie races, and then you've got different levels in terms of license, rookie, iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, etc. Even an alien license for those who are absolutely insanely good at the game. I don't actually think anyone's got an alien license yet, but it is there. So the way it works is basically you have to get your license. Now, that's a great thing in itself, because to get that license, again, anyone SimGrid and similar services like that, you didn't necessarily need a license, just need to sign up. You do have a rating to sort of help split the races, but anyone could get it. The level of SimGrid was massively varied. Even the rating aside, it was very varied. And especially if you found yourself in the lower end of the splits, then it could just be full of people who don't necessarily have any racecraft. They're just hot lappers, and when it came to racing, you're just being taken out and you're not able to finish a race. And of course, ACC has a similar system to iRacing where there's a no-fault system. If you have a coming together of two cars, both of you are getting a penalty in terms of safety rate. So to get your license on LFM, and I know I just said this about hot lappers on SimGrid, but you basically, every 12 weeks, it swaps the track. At the moment, as of the time of recording, the track is Zandvoort, but that's probably due a change, because I think that's probably coming up to 12 weeks that it's been that now. And it basically takes a lap time, which is kind of the lap record for that track, and you have to, over the course of a 7-lap average, get a time that is better than the 105% time for that. So for example, on Zandvoort, I think the record time is a 1:34 something, and the 105% time is a 1:39.1. Basically, you sign up to LFM, and when you basically look around on your profile, it will tell you, here's a server, the license run server that you have to join. And when you join that, you will be joining the server with other people. So this is what makes it so good, is you don't just basically jump onto an empty server and do your track times on an empty server. You will have potentially up to 30 cars. I think it may be a 30 limit. 30 cars on track, so you're similar to ACC qualifying, you're having to do your best laps in amongst traffic. So you jump onto the server, and it basically takes 7 laps, consecutive laps. If you have a invalidated lap, it basically resets that counter. So you have to do 7 back-to-back good laps, and at the end of it, it will take that average time across those 7 laps, and if it's below the 1:39.1, congratulations, you've got your LFM license. Now, that doesn't sound too difficult, but I can guarantee, unless you are just insanely quick, and very talented sim racer, that is a lot harder than it seems. For someone like me who, is probably just a bit better than average at sim racing, or maybe I'm doing myself a disservice there, but obviously I'm not as quick as a lot of these guys you see. So, and I see a lot of people on Twitter basically get frustrated that, you know, they're trying to get the license, they can't quite get it because of time, you know, they can't get under 140, or they're just a few tenths out of the 139.1. The thing that turned it around for me, and I was trying for 2 weeks to get my time below, and I just couldn't get any luck. The two things that really made a difference for me, and I'm going to put them as kind of tips now. One, find a good setup, because the setup on Zandvoort's a really tricky track. The stock setups, even the aggressive setups in ACC, are just not going to cut it. You will find it really difficult. Again, unless you're a very, very quick driver anyway, you'll find it very difficult to do Zandvoort on a stock setup and do it quickly. The biggest time killer for me was a banked corner at the end. On a stock setup, you just can't go flat out, and that will lose you a half a second easily. Finding a good setup. Now, I know a lot of sites charge for setups. I will put a Ferrari setup in the description for you to use, which helped me because I did do the track run in a Ferrari. But I know there are a lot of sites out there you can just Google and they have free setups. They're always not going to be the best ones compared to something like Coach Dave's Academy. But yeah, get that setup. Even if you play around with it yourself, just take the stock setup or the aggressive one and just tune it. Now, if you're not very technically minded like me in terms of really getting into the fine details of car setups, then that's when you might struggle. But again, Google is your friend. Discords, even like the LFM Discord, you don't have to have a license to join that. You'll get a lot of help from people in there. The second thing that's going to help you get your license, do the license runs, you have to have a safety rating of 80, and that's ACC safety rating, not the LFM one. And if you like me and you're fairly new to the game, you haven't played a lot online, you probably won't have that. I think I started with a safety rate of 30, and that is not because I'm a dirty driver, just because I hadn't done any online racing and I hadn't got my stats. So the way to get that up is basically just do offline racing, or if you have a friend, just do lobbies with them and do some close racing and get your safety rating up. Don't do that because you're not really going to get much out of it. Put the AI on, put the difficulty up just enough where you're able to beat them, because you want to kind of start last and end up winning the race. It doesn't really make too much of a difference, but you're going to get through the pack, and that's going to be the thing that gets you safety rating. Put 25 cars on, start at the back. The way you get safety rating in ACC is not by following closely behind, although you will get it for that, is wheel-to-wheel racing. So if you can race alongside a car, the AI, and just turn the aggression down as well, if you can race side by side with the AI, your safety rating will go up really quickly. Now for me, I think it was 8 or 9 races and I had enough. Just doing that will get you huge track knowledge for Zandvoort for a start, so you'll know that track way better than you did before that. But also, you'll learn some different lines, and you'll learn quicker lines, not necessarily because you're hot lapping, but because you're racing cars and you have to adapt when you're overtaking, or if you're doing braking to sort of avoid traffic. You'll sort of learn parts of the track where there might be a bit more grip, or where you can brake a bit later or brake a bit earlier and get a better exit. So doing that will massively help. And I promise you, if you do those two things, that's what changed it for me. So I went from doing a 140 or high 139 to doing a 137. I think I averaged for my license run a 138 or high 137. So yeah, once you do that, congratulations. As I say, you have your LFM license. Now that opens up LFM for you, and you can now start doing the races. But when you get your license, you are just limited to rookie races. Now, that's not as bad as it sounds. You basically have to do 5 rookie races, complete 5 rookie races, and have an LFM safety rating of above 2.5 or 3. And once you have that, once you finish your 5 races, you'll then get your iron license, and that again opens up LFM a bit more in terms of being able to do sprint races. You can start doing endurance races, although the endurance races have a minimum safety rating of 4, I think. And again, that's the LFM safety rating, not ACC. So how does it work? So on the screen now, you'll see the website basically in terms of how you sign up for races, how you sort of check splits, look at how to join a server. And if you go to your account page, so on your account page now, you'll see basically you have your ELO, which is the LFM equivalent of iRating. So that's basically when you finish a race, if you finish high in a split or finish low, that's the one that will go up and down to reflect your performance of that race. So you start off with a 1450 score, and that will kind of go up or down depending on how well you start doing in your first few races. So I think now I'm about 1300, which is good in a way. So your first few races, especially in rookie and maybe in iron, depending on how you do in those rookie races, you may be in splits that don't necessarily represent your skill level. It will take a few races for that to iron out. Again, safety rating as well, so that will go up and down. That's based on incident points, so similar to iRacing, things like off track, hitting cars, other things you can do, like, you know, sort of track limits, stuff like that. So those all affect safety rating. Another thing that can affect ELO and safety rating is the penalty system, and this is another reason why LFM is just so good at the moment. So in iRacing, if something happens to you, you know, you get intentionally taken out, or even if it's not intentionally, someone does a bad rejoin and it needs to be punished. In iRacing, obviously, you have the report system, but I don't think it's used as well as it could be. With LFM, and this isn't to sort of put you off, but with LFM, there is proper stewarding. So if you go and do a stupid rejoin, for example, you know, you get taken out, and you just straight away rejoin the track, take a load of cars out, you will get called up on that, and you will get an ELO penalty as well as a safety rating penalty. And even if the incident's bad enough, you'll get a 3-day ban. I think there's 7-day bans, and then even permanent bans depending on how bad it is. But I think, you know, racing incidents, unless it's seen as purely an intentional, you know, you've gone out your way to take someone out. And because there's no voice chat in ACC, obviously a lot of people use the in-game. LFM blocks you from using that. Well, I say it blocks you, you can still use it, but if you do use it to complain or you're griefing other players, again, you'll get a ban for that. So that's good as well, because part of the reason that iRacing for me not lost its appeal, but it can get tiresome, is just how toxic chat is. I'm sure you've seen in my videos some of the chat that's gone out there in terms of people getting angry. I do get angry as well, but if you'll notice, I don't broadcast it over the voice chat. You know, I just keep it to myself. I'll insult people in the privacy of my own video, which then is out in public anyway, so am I even better? Bruh. Obviously with LFM, it prevents people getting angry, and then if they do get angry and start calling people out in the game chat, then they will get a ban. So simple as that. So in terms of how the structure works of LFM, you basically have a week of racing. So every week the track changes for the particular series. So for example, at the time of recording, we're on week 10, I think it is, of the GT3 stuff, and that particular track for me, so for the iron races and the rookie races, is Silverstone. Whereas if you do the endurance races, it's currently Suzuki, I think. I could be wrong there. It does always change, and if you don't like a particular track, then there's a good chance that there's going to be another series of a track that you do like. And one thing that I want to quickly mention while I remember is the great thing about LFM is every Sunday they do an endurance races that's open to everyone. So I think the safety rating is a lot lower than the normal endurance races, so there still is a limit. You know, it's more accessible to people who aren't necessarily have the highest safety rating or have the highest ELO. Because I think some endurance races you have to have an ELO of about 1600 as well, which might not always be achievable by some people. You know, if you're a lower split racer, then hitting 1600 is going to be near on impossible. Unless you're very lucky with results. So to have those open endurance races on a Sunday available to everyone is a big thing, because endurance racing is great. That's to a lot of people, that is basically what sim racing is about, doing those longer races, being in a team, and yeah, just getting involved in that kind of racing. It's just credit to LFM for making that available to people like that. So I'm going to link another series of videos that's gone into far more detail than I have in terms of video tutorials, a lot more in depth on the sort of the UI for LFM, how to do racing, how to get your license, how to get out rookies. And that's Dan Suzuki's series, and that was a great series. I mean, I'd already had my license by the time I found that, but even so, some of the later parts of that series are really useful, even so, for people who already are racing on LFM. I will link that, and that's a great series to watch. So yeah, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. As I just wanted to make this video because I do talk about LFM, and I sing its praises a lot. I wanted to actually do a video to explain what it is, why it's so good, why I love it so much, and why I'll continue to do LFM races. As I say, it's just an absolutely fantastic service. The fact it's free as well, amazing, because something like iRacing, I think a lot of people forget that although it is, to me and a lot of other people, the king of structured online racing in terms of sim racing, you have to pay for that privilege. There's a monthly subscription as well as a cost of cars and tracks. But LFM, granted you have to have ACC, so you have to have the DLC for a lot of the tracks as well. But the cost of that, you can get the DLC and ACC for about 10 quid if you find it in a Steam sale. But the fact you can do all this racing, have all this structure, have all these different series available to you for nothing through LFM is incredible. And credit to them, because, as I say, they run a great community as well on their Discord. I will link that as well, so you can join that and start getting some advice if you're looking at LFM. But their Discord's great. and as I say it again, it's completely free, which is just amazing really, because the level of racing you get and the amount of variety you get in LFM is just brilliant, and you wouldn't expect that for something that's completely free. So yeah guys, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching. Again, anyone who subscribed recently, I think we're nearly at 90 now, so we're getting there slowly to 100. But I just want to say I really appreciate anyone who has subscribed, anyone who likes the videos. It does mean a lot to me, and yeah, hopefully we can keep improving from here. Hopefully the content will get better as well. I'm always learning in terms of editing, and I'm trying to spend a bit of money to make the production value that little bit higher. You know, not that it's too important, I guess, at this early stage of the channel, but I do want it to reflect sort of where I want to go with the channel, not necessarily where the channel is at the moment. So anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.